The Dynasty Pulse weekend warm-up, Thursday, September 26th. Segment 1, Intro. Bigz. Bigz intros the show and introduces Grindberg with the news. Hey everybody, you're watching the Dynasty Pulse on the Undroppables Network and Fantasy Football Plus. Glad you're here. Producer, kick that video.
Schultzy, where are you?
Schultzy! Ah!
Hey, Schultzy. Nope.
Hit the button, Schultzy. Welcome to the Dynasty Pulse with Bigz and Grindberg on Fantasy Football Plus Network and the Undroppables Network. Schultzy is on assignment and will not be joining us, but we've got a great show for you. We've got starts and sits. We've got Dynasty stock up, Dynasty stock down, and I guess we're skipping the injuries, but how about Grindberg with the news?
Yeah, well, let's get into some news. I mean, I don't think we need to get too much in the injury bug here. It doesn't reflect much on the dynasty spectrum, so we could talk a little bit about them as we talk about maybe some players involved. But let's get into some big headlines here, Bigz. And the first one, I'm pretty sure, is the Malik Nabers season of sensation here. And is he your dynasty wide receiver one? Let's break this down. Like, where do you have him ranked right now, Bigz, as we get into the Malik Nabers train? Short answer before I get into the specifics. Where is he ranked right now?
I feel like you nailed it with the one.
Yeah.
He was my one in the rookie draft. I had him over Marvin Harrison Jr. And before you start talking, Jax, it was like when you were talking about it too. So I actually feel like I had him as wide receiver. You can back me up on this, Grindberg. I had Malik Nabers as the rookie wide receiver one before we heard it from Jax. Yeah, there's absolutely no reason why anybody should be ranked in Dynasty at the wide receiver position ahead of Malik Nabers after his astronomical start to his career.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that. I mean, there was I don't know if you heard the podcast with the Podfather and Theo and Jax. I mean, they were talking about
I listen to everything Jax Falcone does in hopes that someday he'll have me on his show.
He will. You deserve it, Bigz. You'll be on
I know only 50% of this team right here has been on his show, and hopefully someday we can hit that 100% mark.
You will hit the 100% mark, and numerous times. It's going to happen. But yeah, I mean, Malik Nabers, they were talking about it on that show, and they were just saying that maybe Jefferson, because of his trade value right now, is worth a little bit more than Nabers. But it's like, if you're foreseeing the future, I think the writing is on the wall right now with how prolific he's been. You take all those LSU receivers, and he is kind of like the master clone of them all. And yeah,
right.
I just you know
like
what I mean?
Every time in professional sports, there are brothers that play the same sport. It's always like the older one breaks in, and then the younger ones coming up keep surpassing the older brother. And so he's like the younger brother to Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson. Now, at this point in his career, he doesn't have the same injuries that Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase have suffered. So at this point, it's hard to project those injuries. It's easier to say that Justin Jefferson might have recurring hamstring issues, or Jamar Chase might have recurring lingering injury issues. But Malik Nabers doesn't have that yet, so it's not hard to speculate that he's going to be, at least for the foreseeable future, not going to be dealing with those. It took those guys a couple years to get it. So right now, over the next 2 to 3 years, there's no reason why Malik Nabers should be outscored by anybody else in the National Football League.
Yeah, and they were saying that, you know, people are they're tying him to a weaker quarterback as comparison to Marvin Harrison Jr. But, you know, at this stage, it's the wide receiver that is making the quarterback in the league at this stage. If you look at Sam Darnold and what's the relying factor here? We got Justin Jefferson. I think it has a little bit more to do with Jefferson than it has to do with Darnold. I mean, the coaching and the scheme, all that has to play into it, but he's tied to Justin Jefferson, and there's a safety blanket there with these top tier wide receivers. Look at what Dak Prescott has when he relies on CeeDee Lamb. Look what Jared Goff has when they rely on their top options, like on Amon-Ra St. Brown. They're reliable targets, and they elevate their quarterback play. They make
Hey,
mediocre quarterbacks like prolific at times.
and it's not necessarily mediocre quarterbacks. It could be quarterbacks that just have never had one of them before.
Yeah.
Has Sam Darnold ever had a Justin Jefferson before? Has Andy Dalton ever had a Deontay Johnson? Well, that's a bad example. But I do have a stat for you and for everybody out there watching at home or in the car or whatever. And it regards Malik Nabers and Daniel Jones and everybody who faded Malik Nabers because Daniel Jones isn't a great quarterback. We are only 3 weeks into the season so far, but guess who leads the NFL in catchable throws? Catchable catchable targets. No, catchable
Daniel
targets.
Jones.
No, Malik
Malik
Nabers.
Nabers.
That means that Daniel Jones is accurately getting the ball into Nabers' hands. No other wide receiver in the NFL has as many as 26 catchable targets as Malik Nabers. Daniel Jones isn't a slouch, y'all. And Malik Nabers is showing that.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Let's go on Malik Nabers. Prolific. I think it's just gonna keep coming. And yeah, I don't know. Do you want to add anything else to the Malik Nabers story here, Bigz?
He's wearing number 1 for a reason.
He's number 1, and that's why he's the dynasty number 1 at this stage. It looks like. All right, Sam Darnold, his dynasty stock is on the rise. He's emerging as one of the most unexpected stars of the 2024 season, currently sitting as the QB2 in fantasy football. This blistering start with 8 touchdowns in just 3 games, including 4 against the Texans. Darnold is proving he could lead a high-powered offense. His performance has been pivotal for the unbeaten Vikings, and with an average of 219 passing yards, almost 3 touchdowns per game, he's quickly becoming a must-have asset, and that in dynasty leagues. He's got his interesting situation, and we talked about it last week on this show. You can't get rid of him if he's playing at this level. You might want to extend him. He's got, Justin Jefferson, who ranks as the wide receiver 5, and there was doubts about Darnold's capabilities this summer. He is silencing critics, showing he can elevate those around him. The 3-0 Vikings is a testament to Darnold's contributions. He consistently delivers strong performance. He's maintaining a fantasy average of almost 20 points per game. Looking ahead, he's got significant tests against the Packers and Jets before their bye week. What's the outlook right now, Bigz? He's a buy right now for me in Dynasty. His skyrocketing his value. I see him as a long-term value. No matter where he goes, he's going to have a spot next year, I think, on a team, regardless if it's with the Vikings or a team that is in need of a starting quarterback. And we'll see what happens there.
Don't get it twisted, folks. It's not unexpected. There are some analysts out there that were saying in the preseason that Sam Darnold in a Kevin O'Connell offense was going to be a smash sleeper this year. It's coming to fruition, and some of us told you first. So, yeah, I love him. And I was also bought in on JJ McCarthy with the idea that Sam Darnold might be temporary, but have a great first 4 or 5 games, and then JJ McCarthy would take over. Not necessary. JJ, you're 21 years old. Go ahead and hang on to a clipboard for the next 2-3 years. Let Sam cook and and get in there when you can be a very polished presence. But Sam Darnold is that dude right now.
So you okay, I got a question then for you. So
Sure.
what didn't like it like so if you're a coach in the NFL and you got a choice between Sam Darnold and Brock Purdy, what are you going with?
Brock Purdy because he's younger.
Because he's younger. Like how much younger? It's probably very marginal. Sam Darnold's pretty young
A
still. I
year
think
or
he's only
two.
20. A year, like I
I
mean,
don't know.
in longevity wise, I don't think it's that big of a deal. So, what did what does Kyle Shanahan maybe see? Maybe as somebody that can maybe manipulate a little bit more. I don't know. Like there's some rushing upside in Sam Darnold that you don't see in Brock Purdy as much.
Yeah,
And
yeah, you do. Brock Purdy doesn't.
but
He's
I
not a
know
running quarterback, but he's
back, but he can
escapable.
see it. He's
Yeah.
escapable. Absolutely. Yeah, I get that. But there's the upside there. So why, like, where's the disconnect there? And so why were you so high on Sam Darnold this summer when he hasn't been able to make it anywhere else? Prior to this.
Call it the Baker Mayfield effect. I have always thought that it's better off for a quarterback to not be thrust into a starting role right off the bat because it very rarely succeeds. CJ Stroud is a unicorn. Jaden Daniels is a unicorn. Caleb Williams more fits the profile of somebody who needs to take some time to get better. And we saw it from Baker Mayfield. We saw it from Sam Darnold. We saw it from Jordan Love. It's a tale as old as time in the NFL. And I'm not saying that I was higher on Darnold over the summer than I was on Purdy, and I'm not saying that I'm higher on
No,
Darnold now. Sam Darnold is 27 years old, and Brock Purdy is, I want to say 24. So it's a 3-year difference. That doesn't mean a whole lot, but Purdy at his age is much more polished than Sam Darnold was when he was 24 years old. He's in a better situation than Sam Darnold was ever in. So it takes the right fit sometimes. And right now, Sam Darnold is in the right fit. So of course, value Brock Purdy higher. But Sam Darnold is right there. And I mean, if it's a 1A, 1B situation like what Shanahan had in San Francisco, it's a good situation to have. Because if Brock Purdy had been hurt last year, Sam Darnold could have stepped right in and been what he is this year. But it didn't happen. And over the summer, I remember sitting having a conversation with my good friend, the commissioner of my home league. We were in my living room, and I said, I have a big sleeper for you. And he said, I have one too. And I said, Sam Darnold. And he goes, oh my God, that's what I was going to say. We both had high hopes for Sam Darnold and Kevin O'Connell's offense with throwing to Justin Jefferson and TJ Hawkinson and Jordan Addison. And, we saw it coming. That's all I said was it
yeah,
wasn't unexpected. That's all. I was
okay.
just quibbling over one word in your show sheet.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah, sorry, unexpected because I expected it too because I have a lot of Sam Darnold
I know you
because
did.
of
We talked about it all summer.
over it, and I had it over the backsplash of 49ers, like because I thought that he might have actually had the opportunity last summer when Brock Purdy was kind of injured headed into the season, and I thought that maybe Sam Darnold could have had that opportunity because I like what I saw. I think he fits that Shanahan offense very well. So I just thought that and that's why I posed that question to you because it was like splitting hairs there, but you got a guy that was drafted in I think he was second overall, Sam Darnold was by the New York Jets, and you got a guy that wasn't, highly drafted at all in Brock Purdy. So like that's where the question comes in, and now they're in a situation where both of them have very similar value now in Dynasty, and it's so interesting at this stage because 49ers had them both in their
Yeah. And folks, that's the best argument you'll see from two people that agree with each other.
Exactly. It's awesome. I love it. That's awesome, man. It was so good. Oh, buddy. We love each other. Now let's get into stock up, stock down. And this is a
Stock
segment
up,
where we
stock down.
talk about dynasty, stock up, stock down. I think Schultze isn't with us today is because we were crushing his Jaguars last week. I think we decimated them in stock up, stock down because all summer we were pumping his tires to get him, working for us.
I
Like,
don't
oh
think
yeah,
that's the reason, but
we love
but
the Jags, Schultze. Come work with us, man. We love them. We love them. And then now, the Jags have been sucking ass and it has been burying us like crazy. So
I don't know why Schultze's not not with us, but I'm not going to rule out being wrapped up in a tarp, weighed down with cinder blocks, and dropped in the frozen ice of Nunavut. I'm just saying that I'm not close to Nunavut.
You're probably closer than I am.
Not a chance. Not a chance. You're the one in Canada. All right, stock up. My stock up is Roschon Johnson. Unfortunately, this this show is going to drop after everybody in the industry tailed me, and on another show, me calling Roschon Johnson as this week's waiver ad. He is my number one owned running back in all of Dynasty. I've been waiting 2.5 years for this dude. He outpaced DeAndre Swift last week. DeAndre Swift ostensibly lost his job. I keep using that word ostensibly like it makes me look smart. DeAndre Swift probably lost his job. Khalil Herbert didn't look good, but Roschon Johnson did. Then this week it came out that Shane Waldron wants to use Roschon Johnson this week as kind of like a let's see what he's got. Meaning he's got the RB1 spot this week, and there's no way he's going to give up this. He's going to let go of that. So it's Roschon Johnson. His stock is on the rise. He's still affordable. So go out and do whatever you can to get him. And then we'll talk about my stock down.
Bucky Irving or Roschon Johnson?
Roschon Johnson.
Like straight up trade? How about a straight up trade?
I would... If I had any Bucky Irving shares and somebody was going to give me Roschon Johnson for Bucky Irving, there would be zero hesitation. I would break my finger smashing that one.
Right then. All right. Okay. You know who my stock up is?
I do. I'm looking at the show sheet right
now. Yes. I love it. I love it.
To get him.
Exactly. His stock up is so stocked up. It's ridiculous. Now, and it's
typically what we're wanting to do is stock up is guys that you want to sell high on, and stock down is guys that you want to buy low on. But this guy is an impossible buy right now.
You think so? I think he's a guy. Yeah, he's an impossible. Yeah.
I don't know if you want to give up what it's going to take to pry him out of some
owners. Well,
like
I think
if you wanted to come at me, you're giving up a few first rounders and like a wide receiver.
Yeah. So that's how I take it, is because his stock is just skyrocketing right now, and that's why I'm going to talk about him. So maybe I got this segment. Maybe I got the segment wrong.
No, you're right. His stock is up. It's way up.
It's way up, and that's Jaden Daniels. He just delivered the performance that could change everything against the Bengals. He was awesome. 21 for 23, 254, 2 touchdowns, 40 rushing yards, and a touchdown. He developed that chemistry with Terry McLaurin. The connection, this is going to be awesome. That game-winning 27-yard touchdown, solidifying their budding partnership with a talent like McLaurin at his disposal. Daniels is going to maximize his production, making him a must-start in the upcoming weeks. The Commanders have a favorable matchup ahead against, the Cardinals, but it doesn't matter about their matchups. It matters about Jaden Daniels and his rushing upside, his dual threat ability, his improving passing skills. He's learning the game. It's becoming slower for him. You could see that after the first game. You could see it after the second game, and now it's slowing down. I think they're in for another shootout, which could also increase his confidence. Daniels is the kind of player who can just change the landscape of fantasy football. His performance not only demonstrates his capability, but also hints he's got a bright future in the league. If you haven't already scooped him up, well, there's no time. It's gone, like Bigz said. There's no scooping up Jaden Daniels.
Here's a guy that you and I both had in at least the top 12. You said that you had him as top 5 coming into the year. And you talk about the fact that he transitions from college to the NFL. And one of those things is take JJ McCarthy par exemple. That's French. JJ McCarthy is 21 years old. He was only at Michigan for a few years. That was his only stop on his career trajectory, and he was in a run heavy offense. He was in the Big Ten, uh, which is really run and defense oriented. Jaden Daniels was at Arizona State in the Pac-12, which is zero defense, air raid, and then he transfers to LSU, and as a sixth-year senior goes out and has an historic season and wins the Heisman Trophy. So he's got 2 or 3 extra years under his belt playing football than JJ McCarthy did. The transition from him to the NFL is a little bit easier. He just kind of had to get used to the speed of the game rather than the type of play. And who is the king of air raid offense in the NFL? Cliff Kingsbury, the offensive coordinator at Washington. I had zero interest in him when he was reported to be the new Raiders offensive coordinator, but he eschewed that job, went to Washington, and with him and Jaden Daniels, it seems to be the perfect fit. He absolutely put Kyler Murray into the top 5 as a fantasy quarterback, and he's doing the same with Jaden Daniels. Jaden Daniels has the entire skill set that you want at your disposal as a quarterback in fantasy football, and we saw it coming. I said time and time again, he's Anthony Richardson with better accuracy, and that's absolutely coming to the fore. The first couple weeks of the season, everybody said, "Oh yeah, Jaden Daniels is good, but he doesn't pass very much." And then last week, he absolutely lit up the Cincinnati Bengals, found McLaurin on a couple of really nice deep balls, and he can make throws to every part of the field. There's only the sky as the limit for Jaden Daniels. He's perfect.
So and it's almost like, you know, how some people are going heavy. We're talking about like investing and just, you know, putting in your money where your mouth is, and just saying things like, I'm almost at the stage where Jaden Daniels is hitting the top 3 as a dynasty quarterback so early in his career, and just what we've seen. And you know, he's in a situation where I think it's even better than what is around Caleb Williams' offensive line. So I think when people talk about the offensive weapons that Caleb Williams has around him, the situation that he had around him as a rookie quarterback, well, I don't know. Washington at this stage, you know, their O-line is protecting better, and I think that Jaden Daniels with his scrambling ability, they're orchestrating plays for him at this stage of the game that is keeping him safe, and they're making him run in good situations. I don't know. He's at a stage now where he's having a hard time for me to place him outside of that range at this stage, based off of how he started. But maybe an injury could happen, and that could squash that. But
so Chicago is in the mid range in terms of their offensive line creating a clean pocket. They're around 63% of dropbacks for Caleb Williams are in a clean pocket, and Washington is just over 56%. So Caleb Williams is in a much better situation than Jaden Daniels. He has better wide receivers. He has a better offensive line that's creating a better pocket for him. And Jaden Daniels is outpacing him in every aspect of the game. Jaden Daniels is right now so much better than Caleb Williams. And my JJ McCarthy analogy, as far as his age, it's not like Caleb Williams was in college football for 6 years like Jaden Daniels. So there's a polish that's there that Jaden Daniels has that Caleb doesn't. Even though Caleb is in a much better situation. Now, you said top 3. It comes down to this: are you taking Josh Allen over Jaden Daniels?
no.
Are you taking Jaden Daniels or Jalen Hurts?
I'm taking Jaden Daniels.
Are you taking Jaden Daniels or Lamar Jackson?
Taking Jaden Daniels.
All right, and Mr. Kansas City Chiefs fan, are you taking Jaden Daniels or Patrick Mahomes?
I'm taking Jaden Daniels.
Right. He's a top 3 quarterback. Period.
Yes, he is. Yes, because he can pass better than those other scrambling quarterbacks.
Yep.
And he's got that upside. Like he's like a like honestly, he's my quarterback too almost at this stage. I have a hard time putting anybody ahead of him other than Josh Allen.
Right. And that's simply because Josh Allen has been outscoring everybody in fantasy points per
Fantasy
game at the
football
quarterback
ever,
position. But if I'm
forever.
starting a team and somebody's like, do you want Josh Allen or Jaden Daniels? I'm pretty sure I'm leaning towards Jaden Daniels, which is funny because I'm a Cal Bears fan. I was a Pac-12 fan, Pacific Coast Conference, if you will, Pacific Coast Conference, which was the Pac-8, then the Pac-10, then the Pac-12, and now they're all in the ACC anyway. But I got to see I because I watch football on the West Coast and I watch college football. I saw a lot of Arizona State games when Jaden Daniels was starting as a freshman quarterback, and I remember noting his upside, but thinking he's too small. He's not like good enough. But again, that was 6 years ago, and I've watched his progression. I watched Michael Penix progress. I watched Bo Nix progress, and Jaden Daniels is absolutely more talented than anybody who's come out at the quarterback position since probably Andrew Luck. And that's given the potential ceiling for Caleb Williams, which if you're going to take somebody at 22 years old, 21 years old, and put them in the NFL, they're probably going to progress more quickly than somebody who has their age 21, 22, 23 season in the NCAA. But still, like, Jane Daniels is so good, and we're seeing it. We're seeing it play out.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Just think if this running back class was just a little bit more prolific and we had like a Brees Hall or like
It would have been if the Cowboys had
boys
taken
picking Braylon
Allen.
Allen. I know.
All right.
Can you imagine that though? Like having like, hey, I'm gonna get in on Nabers, I'm gonna get in on Jaden Daniels, and having a bunch of that in a startup, like
right.
Yeah, wait.
Okay, here you go. Braylon Allen or Rico Dowdle. Come on.
Like in a
All right, I'm gonna get to my stock down. My stock down. Rip Tyreek Hill. With the injury to Tua Tagovailoa, Tyreek Hill has absolutely seen his dynasty value bottom out. The dude is older. He's not going to have anybody throwing to him that can get him the ball in the situations he needs to for quite a while. I don't know what the Miami Dolphins were thinking with Skylar going into the season with Skylar Thompson as their backup. You think that they would have done something a little bit better, like go out and get a Jameis Winston or a Sam Darnold or an Andy Dalton in the offseason just to kind of show what were they thinking. So because of that, Tyreek Hill can get all the separation he wants. He can beat anybody down the field that he wants. It's not going to matter if nobody can get him the damn ball. And nobody can get him the damn ball. What is the option now if Skylar Thompson doesn't start? Tyler Huntley? You think Tyler Huntley is going to keep Tyreek in the top 12 as a wide receiver? Absolutely not. The time to get rid of Tyreek is last year, like I did, and you're just sitting on an expiring asset who's not going to show much upside. Does that mean that Tyreek Hill is not going to come back next year and have an okay season? It doesn't mean that. Tyreek Hill is still uber talented, but the prognosis, the future does not look good, and his stock is all the way down. If you can throw a fourth rounder at somebody, if you can throw a fourth rounder and say a fringe guy like a Darnell Mooney, somebody who's gonna have a few weeks of upside over the next 5 or 6 weeks and get Tyreek Hill, go ahead and do it if it doesn't hurt your lineup or your roster build, your construction, whatever. But if you are sitting on Tyreek Hill, you are too late.
Yeah, well, it's not looking very good right now for a Tyreek owner for sure. Like this whole situation with Tua, we don't know what the long-term situation is there, and yeah, yikes. All right, Yeah.
Who's your stock down? Who's your next stock down? I think I
My
know.
stock down. It's a
I think I
plummeting.
know.
It's plummeting. His
Let
stock down.
let's just take a second
Yes.
to see where we were on this guy 6 weeks ago.
Oh, I had him as a top 10 quarterback.
Our yeah, and in many cases, our first quarterback being drafted off the board.
Yeah.
Uh, the guy that I relied on this in the Scott Fish Bowl. Um,
How's that
uh,
going for you?
the first 3 weeks of the season, the dude looks like he will never do anything in the NFL again. I remember when he was a freshman competing in the national championship, and everybody was like, "This is the best prospect we've ever seen." Who who's your stock down, Mike?
Okay, I got a question for you right now.
Yeah,
Bryce Young or Trevor Lawrence?
Trevor Lawrence. Come on, I'm not falling for that. I'm not falling for your banana in the tailpipe.
We're not quite there yet on Trevor Lawrence, but it's
No,
looking pretty glim.
his stock is down, but it has not bottomed out the way that Bryce Young's has.
Fair. Okay, but his stock is significantly hit in dynasty fantasy football, and it's hard to ignore the signs after the Jaguars were crushed by the Buffalo Bills 47-10 in week 3. They find themselves 0-3. Dog walk. They were dog walked. Doug Peterson is struggling to find solutions. I honestly think he is the problem. The situation is dire, and despite the Jaguars' hefty investment in Trevor Lawrence with a 5-year, $275 million contract, it feels like they're stuck in a frustrating cycle of underperformance. What do you think here, Bigz? His stock is crazy down right now. What do we know? Do we think that it might have something to do with Evan Ingram, his safety blanket, potentially opening things up a bit here? I don't know if one player is going to make that big of a difference, but when they're together, things seem to roll a bit better. And I'm hoping it's that.
Well, I know you think that, and I don't necessarily not think that, but I just took a look at my clean pocket chart real quick, and the Jaguars are in the bottom 10. Their offensive line is not doing Trevor Lawrence any good, and we can kind of see that in Trevor Etienne. I did it again. Travis Etienne. Travis Etienne has not gotten off, and one of the things that they need is for Travis Etienne to like put together running games, and some of the dump off passes that he gets. When Travis Etienne is working, so are the Jaguars. That might have that might be impacted a little bit by the Evan Ingram injury. You can't take a guy out of lineup that had 140 targets last year and replace him with Gabe Davis and a rookie in Brian Thomas Jr. and a Christian Kirk who's never been anything more than a mid wide receiver. So it very well could be the Evan Ingram effect that is holding back Trevor Lawrence and Etienne and creating a situation where the offensive line just can't hold a good pocket long enough because Travis where Trevor Lawrence just can't get that shorter route to Evan Ingram. Like that very well could. And so what we're all hoping, not all, but me, is that Evan Ingram comes back and all of a sudden the Jaguars offense opens up and Travis Etienne has room to run and Trevor Lawrence can dot all over the field like he should be doing. And it's an Evan Ingram thing. But yeah, Trevor Lawrence's stock is way down.
This whole Evan Ingram thing has got like Darren Waller written all over it. Like I hope not.
I hate that you just said that. That hurt me in my heart.
Yeah, but it just feels so similar that just he's got that upside. He showed that promise, and now it's just like, can it get like Is it going to
Yeah.
be a reoccurring thing? Like, I really hope not. But
And I hadn't made that connection until just now when you broke my heart in 1,000 pieces.
just warning some people out there about what could potentially happen there, and maybe we see it once, and maybe next year we might not see it again. And yeah, like hopefully it's this is an anomaly, and it just can continue on. And let's get into something a little bit more vibrant here, Biggs. Let's
Hey,
get
let's do our
into
studs and duds for the week. We had
yeah.
Schulte last week said to start Chris Godwin, and Chris Godwin finished as wide receiver 21. So good on you, Schulte. He
Oh,
also said sit Levis, and Levis wound up at quarterback 18, which is not awful, but I feel like that's Levis's ceiling. So there you go. My big start was Jordan Mason. Jordan Mason finished at RB 24. So that's fine. He finished as the bottom end of the RB2. If you had him in your flex, you were okay. Where I really whiffed was sitting Jonathan Taylor, who finishes RB5. Yeah, so let's just forget
well,
that ever happened.
yeah. Well, I told everybody to start Brandon Ayuk with complete confidence, and we know what happened in that game. I don't know if anybody expected, you know, Jawan Jennings pretty much becoming a top 5 wide receiver in one game.
Hey, most leagues on Sleeper have 2 wide receivers and 3
Yeah,
flex spots. So wide receiver 45, that's
5.
startable.
Well, yeah, it is startable, but I had him as a top 12 in this matchup. So that was a whiff, a pretty big whiff on my behalf. Well, I wouldn't say it was like, I mean, it was startable, yeah. But
Let's just
I
put
had
it
a
this
good,
way. You're in Winnipeg. I could feel the breeze from that whiff in
yeah,
Calgary.
yeah, there you go. And then you get Javonte Williams, which I think I hit pretty good there. I told you to sit him running back 46. Could potentially lose his job now to a bidet, if you will, someone to
Yeah.
clean your
No.
understroke, if you will.
Your undercarriage.
Yeah,
I
you know,
I call it a super soaker from a bunghole.
yeah, the old Canadian tea bag, if you will, and you know, clean out the
Yeah, and
package.
you know, he he to Javonte Williams' credit, he was vultured for a touchdown by Jaleel McLaughlin, and if Javonte had gotten that, then he'd have been in better shape. But
Yeah,
yes,
and
hey,
and maybe a bidet wouldn't have taken shape in that game. That's a huge lot. That's a like Tyler Batty in the game. That's a
yeah,
big whiff. Like, I mean, that's a
sure.
huge, like, that's not good for Javonte Williams.
He that's Quintorius catching touchdowns at tight end for Houston, whatever his name is. You know who I'm talking about.
Yeah,
All right, let's get into our starts and sits for the week and get the fuck out of here. All right, my first start is Schultze's mom.
awesome. My first start is
Sorry.
Schulte's dad.
You know, not that there's anything wrong with that. All right, my first start is Jalen Naylor. Jalen Naylor of the Minnesota Vikings. Let's look into the numbers real quick. They're facing the Green Bay Packers. The Green Bay Packers shut down the run to the tune of minus 46 yards per game against the rush versus the average. And they allow 10 yards passing per game more than average. So they're a little bit below average against the pass. They're way better than average against the run. And what that means for Jalen Naylor is that he might see a nice little funnel to the tune of about 60% in the passing game. Now, diving a little bit deeper, when I look at Minnesota and I look at Green Bay allows 31.9 points per game to wide receivers. Justin Jefferson is a wide receiver. Jalen Naylor has 2 touchdowns in the last 2 weeks. Start Jalen Naylor.
And Biggs nailed it with the Dynasty Pulse weekend warm-up. Grindberg and Jameer Biggs. No Schultze. He might be back. He might be dead. I don't know.
Well, you're the one that knows. If there's anybody that knows, it's you. Because you're the one near noon of it. I'm not.
All right. My must start this week is okay. This is with the caveat: if he plays, if he's in this game, I'm putting Jaden Reed as a must start. He's making waves for me, and for good reason. Last week, he was the most targeted player on the Packers, snagging 4 of 6 targets for just 50 yards. But that was with Malik Willis at the helm, with Jordan Love expected to return in week 5. Reed is primed to take full advantage of a revamped offense. His current 21% target share puts him at the forefront in their passing game, making him a strong buy low candidate for fantasy managers looking to bolster their rosters. But I like him as a start this week. The Vikings have yet to surrender a touchdown to wide receivers this season, but this matchup is ripe for Reed to break that trend. With Love returning to the lineup, the expectation is that the passing game will regain its potency, and Reed could very well be the beneficiary of an increased opportunity. I think he's the alpha in that offense. I think it all revolves around him. Bigz, you're low on Jacobs this week, but you're high on Watson, and I'm very high on Reed if he's in this game against this Vikings defense that's been stout, but they've been vulnerable at times as well. So don't miss the opportunity to start Reed. His potential is sky high, and he could be a difference maker this week in your lineup.
Sure. It's going to be the points for the Packers are going to be coming from Reed and Christian Watson, I think.
Yeah, me too.
Quick question. Who's more potent? The Green Bay Packers with Jordan Love back in the lineup, or Schultz's dad? Let me get to my sit. My sit for the week is going to be Baltimore Ravens wide receiver Zay Flowers. Why is Zay Flowers a sit? Well, let's just say the the Baltimore Ravens have the unfortunate opportunity to be facing the Buffalo Bills. That is not good news for Zay Flowers, and I'll tell you why. As soon as I can find where Baltimore is. There it is. Okay. The Buffalo Bills allow 27 fewer yards than average in the passing game. They're neutral against the run, so it's going to be a big Derrick Henry game. Lamar Jackson is going to be able to run the ball because the passing game is going to be, if not shut down, it's going to be severely limited. Diving a bit deeper, we've got Baltimore going against Buffalo that allows 12 points to the slot and 11 points per game to wide outs. That's 23.7 points per game. It's in the bottom 10 of the league. Zay Flowers is the number one pass option for Lamar Jackson, but he's A, not going to need him, and B, is going to have a hard time with the Buffalo Bills defense. So I am sitting Zay Flowers.
Yeah, there's no blooming in the flower bed this week for Bigz and the Ravens. So let's go. My sit of the week comes as no surprise. I'm trying to dump as much Michael Pittman stocks in Dynasty as I can. It just, the writing's on the wall there for him. With Josh Downs back in the lineup as well, it adds another layer of complexity. And yeah, his struggles aren't just on Pittman. The entire Colts passing offense has been floundering. They've been averaging a mere 184 passing yards per game, which severely limits the upside for all their receivers. While Pittman still leads the team with 20 targets, he ranks 26 among all wide receivers. His ability to convert those opportunities into meaningful fantasy production has been lacking. As a result, he's becoming increasingly difficult to justify in your lineup. Despite being on the field for over 80% of the snaps, Pittman hasn't been able to capitalize on his role as the wide receiver one. In the last week's matchup against the Bears, he caught only 4 of 5 targets for just 36 yards. Looking ahead, they're playing the Steelers, a defense that has allowed the 8th fewest fantasy points to opposing receivers. Given the matchup, Pittman's outgoing struggles, he's looking more like a wide receivers 3, wide receiver 4 option rather than a dependable starter. So it's a fall from grace here. So I'm looking at other alternatives ahead of Pittman, and it just looking bad for his overall outlook, his dynasty outlook, and just things in general for Michael Pittman Jr.
Yeah, he should do okay against Jacksonville. He might struggle against Tennessee. And then what's the other team in the division?
Houston.
No, Houston, Jacksonville, Indianapolis, and who's the other one? Who can find it first? Me or you? Who can find it first? Me or you?
You're getting in my head.
Oh Lord. Where is it?
Tennessee.
I said Tennessee.
Tennessee, Houston, Colts, Jacksonville. There's only 4 teams.
Yeah.
You didn't say Tennessee.
Tennessee, Houston, Jacksonville, and the Colts. So he should be okay against Jacksonville, but not very good against Tennessee, and he should be fine against Houston too. No, sorry. He should struggle against Houston too. So it's I figured it out, Mike. It's not looking good, except when they're playing Jacksonville. We'll see what he does with the rest of his matchups. But I was pretty in on Michael Pittman being the number 1 target, and maybe it's a function of Shane Steichen not calling enough plays for him. You think that he might have some weapons with Alec Pierce running wind sprints and Anthony Richardson being able to find him, but Josh Downs is back playing that slot role. You want to see Michael Pittman catching some outside targets and some crossers and stuff in the intermediate. It's not necessarily happening. So who knows what's going to happen? They have, to be fair, they have faced some pretty tough defenses, and it doesn't really look good until they get to Jacksonville.
So hopefully, Richardson can make some better decisions in the red zone then, rather than throwing into triple coverage in the end zone and throwing an interception. Might have been the worst interception I've ever seen.
He's very, very unpolished as a quarterback. He's the opposite of
Jaden Daniels. Yeah,
he didn't throw a lot when he was in college, and he wasn't in college for very long. The
hardly
funniest
played.
thing is that part of his fantasy upside, which I bought in on, it came last year with his feet, and even in the offseason,
haven't used him.
Shane Steichen came out and said, to the effect of, you have somebody who has a specific skill. What are you going to do? Not let them use that skill? And so everybody went, oh yeah, they're going to let him run. They haven't let him run.
Yeah, they haven't unleashed him, and they're trying to figure him out as a passer, maybe, but maybe let him have some confidence in the run game that might get his endorphins going in a game, that get him jacked up to like make those big throws and those intermediate throws. And
we're not going to take away his strengths. What do? They took away his strength.
Take away his strength.
Stop it.
Fuck off. We want his strength.
Let him run.
Right, man.
Just like run a wing tee, a wishbone offense. Just like let him run RPOs and not ever have to throw the ball, and Anthony Richardson will be fine. But then again, Michael Pittman won't. So what are you going to do?
What are we going to do?
Indianapolis is in a hard spot. They're not quite as down as Jacksonville.
You know who else is in a hard spot?
As down as Jacksonville.
Who else is in a hard? Yeah, buddy.
Apologies to Schultze's dad. Never met you, my man. So we're just riffing because you might be a good dude.
Yeah, and he obviously needs our fantasy advice in more than one way, depending on what kind of fantasy you're looking at. But anyhow, let's go, Bigz. Week 4, weekend warm up, wrapped up. Let's fucking go, man.
A bow. We got it wrapped up in a bow.
Bigz has got a job at a liquor store now, so watch out, folks, because we're in fucking trouble.
I ran over to my liquor store to get a thing, and the guy was like, "Hey, you know anybody who can work the counter or whatever?" And I was like, "I can do it." It's like, "Okay." So I got
Come on down. Wicked, buddy. Okay. From all of us at the Undroppables, at the Fantasy Football Plus Network. What do we say?
We hope you win.
We hope you win.
We were
Peace.
supposed to do that at the same time, but he didn't get my 1, 2, 3.
Oh, that's because you didn't say un, deux, trois.
I didn't say